Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Main Street Universe, the show and network reminding you that the mysteries and possibilities of the universe are closer to Main Street than you may have ever imagined. And tonight, I will open up the door and begin a discussion about Gnosis. Gnosis meaning knowledge. Some people apply it to spiritual knowledge, and some people think of it as saying, well, it's all in your mind, it's all your personal gnosis. And one of the etymological, origins of it comes from a group called the Gnostics themselves. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Gnostics were early Christians, and they had a heavy belief in all things non-material or immaterial, and that some people, I think, maybe exaggerate their sensibilities of saying that nothing ends up here in the material world. Those are subjects for debate. I would say just based on human nature. Today I'll read a little bit from a Gnostic text from the Nag Hammadi library, and this one's a bit called the Testimony of Truth. Now, it's also important to remember these were being written around the same time, or some of them earlier than when Bible verses were written, and some of them would be part of this collection of texts that didn't make the Bible. And as I said, some of you folks have heard of the Enochian, the books of Enoch and all of that didn't exactly make the Bible, but little echoes of it show up here and there. The Gnostic text, this one, again, these were considered by some to be the early Christians. And much like the story in the Bible itself, the entire story, I mean, the dissension and then ascension story of Christ, it is a lesson. And the Gnostics would view that, not really caring whether or not it's a real story that actually even happened, though a lot of people, including myself, do believe that Christ actually was a real being, a philosopher, person. And there's debates over what it meant to be Son of God, right? So was he a Son of God or the Son of God? And there's, as I was discussing with a friend, there is, by the time we've read this in English, we're somewhere around 5 languages and dialects deep, Aramaic, Hebrew, 3 different forms of Greek, and more. So interpretations are going to be what they are. And one of the ones, I do believe it was between the Koine and the Classic Greek, didn't say the Son of God, said a Son of God. This makes a little bit of a difference. In much of the Gnostic philosophy, as I've come to understand it, is to understand that this ascension story of this amazing philosopher being ripped apart and then reborn is actually all of our story. This is a story of all humans, potentially. That one of my favorite quotes is, greatness is never found in those who haven't fallen, but greatness is found in the ability to rise from the place where you fell. That's from the football coach, Vince Lombardi. So, I'm going to read a little bit, and this is from the Nag Hammadi library, and this is the Testimony of Truth. This one's translated by Soren Giverson and Birger Pearson. I will speak to those who know to hear not with the ears of the body, but with the ears of the mind. For many have sought after truth and have not yet been able to find it, because there has taken hold of them the old leaven of the Pharisees and the scribes of the law. So right there we start right in with the biblical story. In the case of Jesus himself, him always at odds with saying your enlightenment can be found by the laws of the Pharisees. Anyhow, and heaven is the errant desire of the angels and demons and the stars. As for the Pharisees and the scribes, it is they who belong to the archons, who have the authority over them. For no one who is under the law will be able to look up to the truth, for they will not be able to serve two masters. For the defilement of the law is manifest, but undefilement belongs to the light. The law commands one to take a husband, to take a wife, and beget, to multiply, like the sand of the sea, which is a delight to them, constrains the soul of those who are begotten in this place, those who defile and those who are defiled, in order that the law might be fulfilled through them, and they show that they are assisting the world, and turn away from the light, who are unable to pass by the archon of darkness until they pay the last penny. Now, what I get out of this is something the Gnostics are known for, and I'm certainly not an expert on all Gnostic texts, but they're known for, and there are strains of people that still believe this today, that we curse ourselves by reproducing. I'm not saying I agree with this, I'm just saying, but in order for us to return to our place as energetic beings, not away from divine providence, not away from God, but in order for us to stay divine ourselves, we just have to stop rebirthing earthen lives. And it's also a funny back and forth equation, because they say the angels and demons are definitely involved with the lives of humans. And of course, humans being biblically God's chosen, which some people think cause jealousy amongst demons, angels. Another one is demons and angels, according to lore and legend of different types from different sources, they cannot reproduce. It's something that's I've heard repeated before in different texts, including magical ones and otherwise. And so they take a certain delight in reproducing with humans. Thus we get the Genesis verse about the sons of God saw the daughters of men to be beautiful, and then they started to mix with them. And it happened the other way around too. The female angels and demons did the same exact thing. And I have personally experienced certain Gnostic experiences on that subject matter, but I'm not going to comment on that right now. So, another part of Testimony of Truth is that they believe that the serpent represented, meaning the serpent in the Garden of Eden, who many scholars say has never actually been called Satan. They just said the serpent. And some people believe it was our own inner awakening knowledge speaking to us. But then this other God force, what you would think of as God in the Bible, didn't want us waking up to it. Now that would make sense if you're trying to run a big organized church. Let the priest dish out the spirituality rather than you maybe having some sort of a priest or a minister as a guide, but then you find it from within, which is, to me, the only real way you can find it. But also, I'd like to say, for the record, it's real easy to be hard on organized faith, but organized faith of all kind, to me, form a very valuable service. It's real easy to say and sound like an intellectual by going, oh, I blame religion for all the wars in the world and everything else. it's intellectually, in my opinion, a little bit lazy. And because what it is that's just used as a tool. It's really the love of, power, position. Those are the things that, of course, whatever is considered money of the day, property, again, power, position. Where do you want to be on that ladder, on that totem pole, for lack of a better way of saying it? Maybe a bad example. I apologize, but I'm just saying that's really the cause of all these things. That and people shying away from their true selves, which all plays into it. So the idea that the serpent represented a form of truth, an inner awakening. Think of it like Kundalini, or the snake, or the Ouroboros, or the Caduceus. All of those things representing a serpent of knowledge that was actually trying to get humans just to recognize their own actual potential, which is an immortal, godlike potential. And there's even a lot of people in my faith that disagree with me on that, by the way, that do not think. I personally believe in the reincarnation model, but not everybody that's, pagan or witch or whatever, that doesn't actually all agree with that. So, to get to the point, the Gnostic followers, those who were the Gnostics, were people who believed in a return to our true non-physical state, and that's the only path to enlightenment. And if you have to go through a physical life, like this, then they believe, then do what you can to sort of, to put it in modern New Age terms, to sort of vibrate, I guess, as close to it as you can. But as I said, some strains of this belief system do believe in not having children and not being born. I personally don't prescribe to that theory. I think go ahead and have as many babies as you want, and that all sorts of potential answers can lie within these new individuals. So can a lot of potential disaster. It's just the way things are. It's dark and light, all of that. So again, testimony and truth involves God speaking to Adam, and once again, the idea of the serpent is, like I said, like a Kundalini, like a truth, a spiritual awakening, that other, let's say, multidimensional beings or gods, or God, as was portrayed, was against us against us learning, against us becoming too close. Just like when the verse says, let them be like us. And so that's about, I think, all I'll do to start my introduction show on the Gnostics, just to give a brief intro, and then I'll continue with more detail on texts and things like that. I'm a little bit on time limitation right now. But to open the door, it is, again, about living the non-physical life meant a lot to the Gnostics. They were also quite brutally treated at one point. They were seen as enemies of the church because they believed in your power to do so individually. That was back to my point about, it's easy for people to make fun of organized religions, organized faith, but in truth they serve a great purpose as a guide. And sometimes they've served a great purpose as preserving knowledge, including preserving occult knowledge. Some of the greatest old wizards and alchemists went to the great, medieval or other period universities and all of that. All those folks like Agrippa and so many others, Paracelsus. Anyhow, but both can be valuable, in my opinion, and that would be the balance and the point. We don't just become spiritually enlightened only through spiritual activities. I believe the physical definitely plays a part. It's where I part company with the Gnostics. I agree with them on the enlightened journey part, but man, combining the physical means a lot. And though I could be misinterpreting it myself, I'm still a fairly new student to this. I'm commenting on it. I mean, I've known about them for years, but as far as digging into it a little more, I'm commenting on it now as it comes to me. And if there's debate, feel free to leave a comment. I'm Daniel Michael, and we'll continue at a future date soon our conversation about the Gnostics, about Gnosis itself, what Gnosticism is, and how their effect has had on how we see spirituality today, whether it be New Age spirituality, which they say is the fastest growing, is Wicca. I don't really know if that's true. I think if you maybe lump the whole quote unquote New Age bundle together, maybe that's all the fastest growing new faith. It's more individualized. But comment for another day. Anyhow, I have to roll. And nice talking to you all again here on Main Street Universe, the show and network, reminding you that the mysteries and possibilities of the universe are closer to Main Street than you may have ever imagined. I'm Daniel Michael. Thank you. Good night.